Hi juniors and seniors. This screencast is about how you are going to take effective notes for the research that you have now collected. As I said before in many of our class times together, your ideas come first, your research, and then we start thinking about the writing. So even before we start thinking about the writing, you really need to comb through some of your sources, because this is where you're going to really start to focus in on the ideas and the specifics of what it is you want to address in your papers. Oftentimes the research tailors our thinking or allows us to think more specifically on one general idea. Many of you have already started to think more specifically on an idea. So today I would imagine that through your note-taking and your reading, you're going to even find more specifics that you are going to want to think about for your research paper. So where I'm going to ask you to start first, actually, I know you're looking at your computers now, but I really want you to look at your right source book. So you should have your orange right source book if you are a junior, and your green right source book if you are a senior. And you are going to turn to page 396. You see, that's where I'm at here. I want to talk to you a little bit today about how to gather ideas and how to effectively note take. There really is no one right way to do this, as everybody thinks differently. Some people think more in a linear fashion, some people think more in a mapped fashion. But I do want to show you one way that might be effective for you, specifically note taking on your computer. Since we're all into Diigo, you're able to kind of highlight and take notes there. I want to remind you too that if you are not in Diigo, you probably want to get in there, because it is a good place to do some highlighting, which is why I had originally suggested it. So after all my talking, you should now be on page 396, and I just want to show you briefly about the gathering grid. So here's our gathering grid here. I'm not going to ask you to really make one, but I do want to show you how this works, because it might help your note card organization. What the gathering grid does is very similar to what you guys did in your topic proposal, in that you ask 3 guiding questions to your topic. Obviously you can have more questions as a writer. I mean, as a researcher and writer, you should always be developing questions and trying to answer those. But I want you to think specifically on those guiding questions that you had, and one thing you can do is, write those down and start thinking about where it is you're going to find it. Are you going to find it in your resource 1? Are you going to find it in that website that you looked at? Are you going to even find it in your independent reading, seniors or juniors? Are you going to find that answer in your primary source? So these are things to think about. Where am I going to find this answer specifically? Many of you have about 9 sources filed into your Diigo accounts. Like I said, you're probably not going to use all of those, but it is kind of good to start going through those to see where am I going to find those answers. If I turn to page 397, this is where I really want you to focus your attention on these note cards, because this is what we're going to do, but we're going to do this online in Diigo, and I also am going to give you the options to do the writing as well. If you notice on these note cards here, they are first of all numbered, okay, so that you can stay organized. So if this is your first kind of question that you want to answer, you would number that question 1. Here's the question that this person is asking: why was the policy created? And then here they found the answer, and they just kind of did some bullet points, the stock market crash, banks failing, people losing jobs. And then we find down here that this is the source where they found that information. Now, juniors, you've already created a working bibliography in your topic paper or in your topic proposal, so you can actually go ahead and do kind of your parenthetical citation. If you're unsure what that means, then maybe you just go ahead and label those resources 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you just say, this is from resource number 2, and I'll worry about the parenthetical citation later. One thing that they think about is, paraphrasing and quoting. So, what were its successes? That's another question that they're asking to their research. And here we see that they paraphrase the answer. Go ahead and read that real quickly, just so you can see what that looks like as a paraphrase. Okay, one thing that we notice is that the whole set chunk was not taken from the text. This is in the student's own words. So when you are paraphrasing, you've got to put the source away and think about, how would I now say this in my own words? Here you can see that they did take a phrase out of their original piece, and they quoted that with quotes. Down here they took an actual quotation. So here's their answer. What were its failures? And we see that they just went ahead and took a whole chunk of information directly from the source, and they did that by putting quotes around it. So that's a good thing for you to do. That way you can, go back to your notes and see what quotes you found were important. Now, as a researcher, I don't always write down my quotes. What I do is highlight the sentences or the phrases that seem important to me that I might want to include in my research. To me, that just seems a little laborious to write that down when you can just simply reference it. So I'm going to suggest, if you want to use direct quotes, that you just go ahead and highlight that in your source. That way when you're ready to look for that, you can make a note to yourself on your note cards that, hey, I really, this kind of answers my question. So I wanted to take you there first just so you could see, things to think about when you're note taking. If you look on page 398, there is a short little section on plagiarism. So you want to maybe read this. Take a minute to read this. We'll talk more specifically about this when I get back, but paraphrasing says when you paraphrase, you rewrite information in your own words. This is usually the best approach for including information in your paper. Don't forget, even when you paraphrase, you must give credit to the source of the paraphrased idea. Again, otherwise it's plagiarism. Okay, so paraphrasing can be tricky because sometimes we are wanting to use the words that the author uses, but we have to really focus in on not using their exact words. Here's a little side note. Use ellipsis ... in your quotations to show where words from the original source have been left out. Notice up here we can see that the author did that. They clearly wanted to eliminate some of the information here, so they used the ellipsis. Again, another effective thing that you might want to consider doing in your notes and in your paper. We will actually do this, try it when I come back, so don't worry about that. Alright, so I want to take you, I'm just going to lead you through, kind of model for you how I would go ahead and note take. This is something that I created. I'm going to pretend that I'm you for a minute and that I created a topic proposal. Here is my proposal idea. I'm going to read it to you. You can read along with me. The human mind is an amazing tool. It's a tool that no other species on Earth has. As humans, we carry the ability to think critically, explore our imaginations, and dig deep into our curiosities. I would like to illuminate the amazing potential of the human mind and explore the positive effects humans' ingenuity and creativeness has had on our planet. Many people attribute the eroding of the earth and the putrefying of our morality to the fast-paced innovation of mankind. However, I believe that man's ingenuity and mental capacities, amazing and expounding, have had many positive effects on the way we live. Look at art, listen to music. Further, oops, I probably need a period there. Further, I'd like to specifically explore how humans' creative potential lends to solving issues that humanity faces. I want to understand the impact that the creative genius mind has on our world. I want to know what has been solved and what some are doing to still solve our Earth's most mind-boggling questions. Okay, so that's kind of my idea that I'm looking at here. I'm looking at the positive effects of a human's creativity. Obviously, it's had negative effects. We can think of, for example, the atom bomb. Very creative and innovative. However, probably not the bright side of humanity. But we can look at some things that, music and art, and we can look at, those who are trying to solve cancer, and, how are they using their creative genius to solve those issues, and why that's so important. So here are my 3 guiding questions that I'm focusing on in my research. These are the things I want to answer in my readings. How does one practice the art of creativity? Are we born creative, or do we have the capacity to continually practice this art? Okay, that's kind of a 3-pronged question embedded into one. How can creativity benefit our world, our society, our minds, and our hearts? What are some examples or work of creative geniuses? And then here's a fourth question. Obviously, you didn't have to have a fourth, but I do. What are some examples of issues yet to be solved, and how is creativity still at work? Okay, so those are the things that I want to really focus on. So I'm going to take you to one of my resources that I found in Psychology Today. This one I found interesting, and actually this kind of helped me develop my topic a little bit. This is called The Brain and Emotional Intelligence, New Insights on the Creative Brain. So I'm just going to remind you that if you are in Diigo, I just press my Diigo and it pops up with all of these wonderful little sources here to use. Those of you on the notebooks, you're going to go to your bookmarks, and then you would click Post to Diigo, or you would click your little Diigo-let, and hopefully this pops up for you. If not, you can always do this on paper. Okay, so I'm just going to go through and think about, how am I going to answer those questions? So because this is all about creative genius, and I already know that because I actually got that term from this paper, I'm going to actually pop up a little sticky note here, and I'm going to type a question in here for myself. I'm going to go back to my topic paper and look at that question that I have. How does one practice the art of creativity? I'm going to ask that question to this. Okay, and hopefully I can answer that. Alright, so I'm just going to read through this a little bit. I'll read it aloud. That belief about creativity in the right and left hemisphere of the brain dates back to the 70s and reflects a very outdated bit of neuromythology. New understanding about left and right hemispheres is more specific to topography of the brain. Alright, I'm going to skim down a little bit. I'm just going to kind of, obviously I want to read through this whole article, but because for time, I'm just going to kind of skim here. Ah, yes, okay, this is really what I'm looking at here. Let's look at how that maps across the dominant thinking about creativity. You may have heard a classical model of the 4 stages of creativity. Okay, that seems to be pretty important. I'm going to highlight that. Classic model of the 4 stages of creativity. I'm just going to ask a question to that. Put another sticky note up here. I'm going to post this one. I'm going to add another sticky note though. You notice my sticky notes end up going to the side here, and you can access those. I'm going to ask a question to the text. What are the 4 stages of creativity? This might help me in my research if I'm talking about, how does one engage in the creative art. This might help me. Step 1, you define and frame the problem. Okay, so I'm going to write that down just for myself. Define and frame problem. Put that in quotes because those are not my words. Many people say that one of the signs of geniuses in a field is the ability to see problems and challenges and ask questions that no one else sees or asks. So first, find the frame and creative challenge. Second, immerse yourself. Dig deep. I'm going to highlight this next step. Immerse yourself. Dig deep. Gather ideas, data, information, anything that's going on to help you with a creative breakthrough. Oh, we're kind of doing that right now with our research. The third phase is a little counterintuitive for some people. Let it all go. I'm just going to highlight this word third. Let it all go. I wonder what that means. Just relax. The best ideas come while you're taking a long hot shower, going for a walk, or on vacation. Here the self-mastery comes in knowing when to let go and knowing that you need to let go. The final stage. Okay, so I'm going to write down, relax,